I was going to say over the past few years, but it's really been the past few decades that refugees and asylum seekers have been in the news, and these terms have been much abused in the process. I thought it might be of interest to look at some realistic options. First of all, we need to define what a refugee is. According to the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, quote, "The 1951 Refugee Convention spells out that a refugee is someone who, owing to a well-founded fear of being persecuted for reasons of race, religion, nationality, membership of a particular social group or political opinion, is outside the country of his nationality, and is unable to, or owing to such fear, is unwilling to avail himself of the protection of that country." Unquote. It goes on to say, quote, "But refugees and migrants, even if they often travel in the same way, are fundamentally different, and for that reason are treated very differently under modern international law. Migrants, especially economic migrants, choose to move in order to improve the future prospects of themselves and their families. Refugees have to move if they are to save their lives or preserve their freedom. They have no protection from their own state. Indeed, it is often their own government that is threatening to persecute them." Unquote. So in short, a refugee is someone with a genuine reason to fear for their life and who believes that they must flee their own country in order to live. Are the people we so often see on our TV screens refugees? No. A refugee cannot country shop. Under international law, they have a right to safety, but not much else. It is not a crime to seek asylum. However, it is a crime to break the law, even immigration law. And not only is criminal behaviour being allowed, it's being encouraged. When a country refuses to enforce its own laws, it seems a bit ridiculous to expect others to obey it. So what can be done? Here we have two separate issues. One, refugees fleeing from genuine danger, and two, economic migrants fleeing economic disaster. Each requires different approaches. 1. Refugees. The vast majority of refugees want to return to the life they had in their own country amongst their own people, and that should be our objective as well. Only in the most extreme cases should that principle be violated. A. We should endeavour to keep people as close to their own country as possible. B. We should encourage countries with similar ethnic, racial or religious beliefs to accept as many temporary or permanent refugees as possible, even if we have to help them financially. C. Only when it is impossible for refugees to return to their own country should permanent settlement be an option. D. Any refugees allowed in should be temporary, with a long period, 25 years, before they can claim permanent residence or citizenship. 2. Economic migrants. Any migrant who breaks the law, including immigration law, should be deported. Only those who arrive legally as part of an orderly immigration policy should be allowed to stay. All others have broken the law and should be deported, including those who have already arrived illegally. If the West exists on the principle of the rule of law, then it applies to our governments and to all equally: native-born, immigrant, refugee, and economic migrant. If we are the only ones who the government expects to obey the rule of law, then the government is on the side of injustice.